Honourable Barbara, whaftai mo te nei tai hama losi whamanuia, kia ora.
Maloli soifua manuia talofa. It's a beautiful day here in Wellington. Not sure what it's like up in Auckland, but we had that storm come through yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, well, here in Wellington, Auckland, tamaki makaurau, ia le fo e fa le o le lei fo le tau mo mātou, le lo po se kau mai ngā wani konge le wo mai ngai.
Maybe.
Whamalo whaftai mo le teimile nei tai au. If I may ask you, what's your thought about Grant Robertson going to the World Cup final in Paris? There's a lot of talking about this. He shouldn't go. The taxpayers' money. What do you think, Bob?
So first of all, I noticed she's not wearing your Tō Samoa shirt. We're wearing black today, so we acknowledge the All Blacks.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's our year this year.
Yeah.
But it's really important for a number of these significant sporting events. There is a representative of a government that's there. So for FIFA, we had different ministers at every game we're hosting, as well as in Australia. For some of the semi-finals, quarterfinals, we had and the finals, we had ministers there. So it's not unusual. It's very normal to have a government representative. Grant Robertson was given permission from the leader, the incoming Prime Minister, so they were consulted because these are the sort of things that you do as caretaker.
Yeah.
And so Christopher Luxon said he was fine with that, so he was comfortable with it. Grant Robertson is there now, and he is currently the New Zealand government rep. So yes, he is a caretaker, but irrespective of where this World Cup would have fallen, it would have been someone from the government would have been there to represent New Zealand because we are in the final and it's a significant world event.
And it's always good to have a representative from the government, especially
and
New Zealand's already in the final.
Yes, I understand from the discussions with Minister Robertson and Christopher Luxon, the offer was put there to have a National Party representative as well, or for the incoming government, but the decision that Grant Robertson would suffice for it. So it's not unusual. He's there, and it's a usual thing that happens depending on what the event is. But it'd be unusual for New Zealand not to have a government representative there.
Okay, Honourable Barbara Edmonds, what was the talking in the Beehive from the Labour Party caucus since the last 2 weeks of the general election?
Well, good thing is we're still talking. No, so everybody is kind of in our own electorates and in our own offices. So we haven't met in the Beehive. We didn't have a cabinet meeting this week. We do next week. And it's to take over any caretaker business that we need to address. But really over the last week, most MPs are either having a little bit of a break because, it's been a pretty hard slog of a campaign. But also, for myself, for example, I'm setting up a new offices. So I'm closing one particular office, looking at a new one. I've got staffing changes because, as you went through your introduction, you provided all my ministerial portfolios. That's 20 staff that I have. So I have 4 political staff who will now move on to different roles because they've lost their jobs effectively with us losing the election. So they go find a new job, and for the other people who are from the departments, they get deployed to other ministers as they come in. So it's very much a little bit of a quiet time as you wait for those special votes to come in. But it's obviously clear that Labour will not be the next government, so we just wait and see.
Okay, so what can we expect on November the 3rd, Bob?
So next week on Friday, November the 3rd, that is the date that the Electoral Commission should have done all the special votes. There's around 500,000 special votes, and special votes are around 80,000 of them are people who are overseas and other parts of the world who can vote. For example, our families, if they're in Australia, they can vote for a New Zealand representative within particular rules. But also they're for people that were maybe on election day, they weren't able, or the advanced voting stage, weren't able to take their votes in their area. So, for example, if I had a wedding up in Auckland and I couldn't vote here in Mana, I could vote up in Auckland. So that's what the special vote count will do. The Electoral Commission will provide the final vote count for that. And I understand through media commentary that that's when Christopher Luxon will look to the shape of his incoming government with obviously with ACT and possibly with New Zealand First, given they've only got a 1-seat majority at the moment.
Okay, Barbara, the incoming Prime Minister for New Zealand, Christopher Luxon, his first 100-day plan, in your experience, how realistic is this?
It's a lot of legislation time.
Yeah.
So I've obviously had a lot of experience with the changeover of different governments over my career. When I looked at the 2017 changeover, I was at that time I was in Judith Collins' office. At the time, and then Labor came in and they made a change of government. It's a lot of hard work for the public sector because they have to provide advice for ministers, draft legislation, and then Parliament itself needs to sit to try and get that legislation through. And, the 100 days, the longer it takes for them to form a coalition government, the closer it gets to Christmas and their public holidays. So it is a really difficult time for a lot of public servants, but it's something that, public servants are there for, in the sense that they're quite used to this kind of happening every so often. And it'll be just a very intense time, both for the government and for us in the opposition as well, for us to basically get together as to our position on some of their changes. And, there will be things that we are very strongly against. For example, the removal of the 90-day trials. I know they want to remove that. For Pacific people, that affects them because a lot of them, will have change in jobs. They don't have the certainty. They could get released for whatever reason within the 90 days, especially if they work for a large company. So those are the sorts of things that we will work on in opposition, as providing our position and then opposing it and doing all that we can to hold the government to account as they put that legislation through.
Okay, Honourable Barbara Edmonds, talking about the new government, still lots of talking, especially our Pacific Island communities, about the lack of Pacific Island MPs in this coming up government. Do you think there will be a problem for the services of our Pacific Island people in New Zealand?
That really is a question for the National Party. And depending on where their numbers fall, they might have none. They might have no MPs. They might have one MP. I'm not sure. That really is for them. But for us, as obviously as a Labor opposition, we know there's a lot to lose for Pacific people and the different types of policies that we've had over the last 6 years. So we will be watching like a hawk, and it really is the National Party for them to find a way as to how they're going to represent Pacific people. Even if they only have one or two MPs, that's a difficult thing to do when the majority are, you're a minority within a majority.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know anything about the Pacific and Maori strategy for Porirua City?
Yes, so I was there last week when Porirua City Council ratified the two new strategies. The Pacific and Māori strategy was consulted on with our different communities and was put together as a pathway. It's sort of the strategic vision for Porirua City Council. So I'm really proud of some of the work that Porirua City Council has done for Pacific people, because we are the second largest Pacific population outside of Auckland. So it's really important that our council be able to reflect the aspirations and goals of Pacific families within their area. So it was really good to be there at the council chamber when that was being put through, and we had a number of our community leaders there, so it filled out the council chamber. So it was a really good day, and I know for some of our first Porirua City councillors who are no longer here, it was a really important time for their children who were there to acknowledge their parents as well.
We did talk about the Samoa, the Pacific Island language weeks in New Zealand. So the Tokelau language week this week, how good is your Tokelau? No.
Yeah, te vaiaho o nanana Tokelau. So it's maloni to everyone.
Wow.
And again, Pacific language weeks have gotten bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah.
And this is the last of the 9 language weeks. Next year, there will be 2 more language weeks. We've got one for Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands. That was something that I'm really proud of that we managed to achieve in my last 9 months as a minister. But it's those language weeks, I think, are really important for our Pacific community, and also for the wider Aotearoa, for them in New Zealand, to recognise the strengths and the culture of our Pacific languages. So it's my tukulao is not that strong, but I'm going to enjoy. We've got a number of events across the country. There's the hateles. I know there's one happening in Manurewa, the big one in Manurewa tomorrow, and there's a big one here in Porirua for the whole Wellington region, because there's a lot of tukulao community here in Wellington.
Yeah. Barbara, I think earlier this week, the Caretaker Government, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Chris Hipkins, he was asking the whole government to stand together. More le tulanga ile taua Israel uma Palestina. Do you think New Zealand is doing enough? More le tulanga ile taua Israel?
So again, because we're in the caretaker mode, we really are basically providing the statement with the approval of the incoming Prime Minister, which is Christopher Luxon. New Zealand has called for a humanitarian pause in Gaza so that you can bring in, because obviously last week when we spoke, New Zealand gave humanitarian funding for Gaza, but we've asked, we've in a statement with the United Nations Security Council, New Zealand has joined it. It has asked for a humanitarian pause to allow safe corridors to bring in humanitarian aid to those innocent civilians who are living in Gaza and affected by this current battle.
Right. Okay. Honourable Minister Barbara Edmonds, Whawhati Tele Lava, thank you so much for your time this morning. Before I let you go, so what's your pick for the big game coming up, big final of the World Cup on Sunday morning? What's your pick?
Oh, you know my heart is with the All Blacks, of course.
Yes.
That's why I'm an All Black today.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a difficult test. The last time we met, just before the World Cup, the South Africans really gave it to us, as well as they, I don't know if you've seen it, but their bench is 7 forwards to 1. Yeah. That means that they're going to play a very physical, front-loading game. So for New Zealand, it's going to be a battle of the tactics, and really whoever can hold. Yeah. This is a World Cup final. Doesn't matter. You've done all the training, you've done all the planning. It really is now down to whoever can hold their nerve on the day. And so I'm backing Black, but you've got to watch out for those South Africans. And I'm hoping next week we can have we can celebrate a win for our All Blacks.
I like your professional comments on the game. Oh man,
I'm all for rugby. This is my jam. Rugby and rugby league. It's like Tour Samoa last week. Yeah. It was Samoa that won, because I was just thinking, man, Isako, you've just come back. You should come back and play for Samoa. And then Jerome Luai's got surgery, and then so I was just like, Samoa won in the end, because half those try scorers in the Kiwis were Samoan anyway. So
Honourable Barbara Edmonds, Whawhati Tele Lava, thank you so much once again for your time. Moria lava ni asa, moria for the weekend.
Yeah, Whawhati Tele Lava mole awa noa, and have a great weekend. Go the All Blacks.
Yeah, thank you.